Shares of Palantir sliding after hours after reporting first quarter earnings, despite the company beating on the top line and raising its full year guidance. For more, we're bringing in now Rishi Jaluria, software equity analyst at RBC Capital Markets. Rishi, it is always great to have you on the show. So let's walk through this, Rishi. So Palantir reports they beat sales estimates, it looks like, for Q1, Rishi. They raised their forecast for annual revenue. Initial pop, but now we're down here about 9% in the after hours. What is going on here, Rishi? Give me your take.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh, thanks so much for having me. Always a pleasure to speak to you. I would say it's a combination of a couple things, right? It's high expectations because this has become a hyped, or in my opinion, overhyped generative AI, beneficiary company. And we can get into that in a second. You saw the stock was up 8% on the day today heading into earnings. And then, they put up results that are a beat and raise, but I think that was priced into the stock. And then at the same time, you see U.S. commercial decelerating pretty big. Last quarter, they put up 70% U.S. commercial growth. Now they're growing U.S. commercial 40%. I think it's a combination of those as well as some other things that's leading the stock down about 9% in the aftermarket.
Well, Rishi, it's Julie here. Why is that commercial growth slowing? Is it just a matter of that they couldn't keep up that same pace? Or is there some issue with execution? Or is it end market demand? What's going on?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things, right? Number one is the compare itself just gets a little tougher. I think that 70% commercial number that they posted last quarter was maybe boosted by just a very, very easy compare and some one-time impacts. And so that's piece number one. I think piece number two, and we'll see how this plays out over the coming quarters, but when we talk to actual technologists who are deep into AI, deep into ML, who know more about this topic than I could ever hope to over my life, they are expressing skepticism around Palantir and especially around AIP and whether they are what they say they are from, an AI perspective. And maybe there's a little bit of that showing up in the U.S. commercial numbers and why we're seeing that slowdown as well.
What about, Rishi, this company's boot camps where they get customers, kind of up and running fast with their AI software? Smart strategy, in your opinion?
I think it is, but look, I would again put a little bit of skepticism around that bootcamp strategy. I think number one, remember, Palantir is very heavy customized software, right? I estimated more than 30% of their business is actually professional services and outsourced data science rather than actual true software. So I don't know that it's even the right fit for something like a bootcamp. And even then, if we really think about bootcamp customers, these are people who say, okay, come and figure out some of my problems and give me a use case. But it doesn't go from there to a customer becoming a multi-million-dollar Palantir customer overnight, which is how they make it sound on earnings calls. But in reality, a lot of times, those bootcamp customers might do multiple boot camps, or they might turn into a pilot customer over time. It's not nearly the game changer to go to market that I think they claim it to be.
Rishi, so obviously you're not a fan. You've got an underperform on the shares here. We see it coming back to earth today, but the market has not been on your side thus far this year. The stock has rallied. There definitely are a lot of Palantir buyers out there. Where do you think this sort of disconnect lies between that perception of Palantir as an AI winner and what you're saying, which is that in truth, it might not be?
Yeah, I think it comes down to that perception around exactly what is Palantir and exactly what is AIP, because there is no way the valuation of Palantir stock at 25 times forward revenue is supported by 20% growth and the margins that they're putting up. That's just not possible if you compare it to what other things in software are trading. What I think it comes down to is Palantir messages that they are this cutting edge generative AI company. They message a lot around AIP and boot camps, and I think very deliberately target retail investors. And look, everyone wants to play the AI game. And don't get me wrong, I'm a huge believer in AI and especially generative AI's technology. I think it is going to change society as we know it. I just don't think Palantir is that cutting edge generative AI company that they claim it to be. I think it is a good data pipeline. It is a good data ontology company. I'm not saying it's not a useful company, but it is not what they claim it is. And I would say to any investor that really wants to play this AI trend, go buy Microsoft. They are doing a lot more when it comes to generative AI. Plus, they have that very deep partnership with OpenAI, which to me is one of the most important companies in the world today. I think Microsoft is a much better way to play the AI wave than Palantir.
And Palantir, Rishi, we're talking AI, their commercial business, but of course, the company's roots are in government sales. I'm just interested for that business segment, Rishi. Looking ahead, what do you see? Puts and takes. Any tailwinds that you see ahead?
I think there's really some interesting puts and takes here, right? Because what we've picked up in our checks and our conversations is that government agencies are actually looking to reduce their dependency on Palantir and maybe multi-source and use multiple vendors, which is, what we saw in the UK with the NHS deal, where they actually ended up using a number of different vendors instead of Palantir, and the deal ended up being a lot smaller for Palantir than expected. And so I think there actually could be a little bit of mixed results in the government business over the next couple of years as a result of this. I will also say, the government business is probably the stickier, better quality business for Palantir, but it's not a high growth business. And I think that's why they don't emphasize it nearly as much as they do the US commercial business.
I think right now, so we'll see how this is all going to pan out. I think right now we probably need to focus on the commercial side of the business. We actually saw a really nice report last quarter where they did see a significant amount of growth when it came to bringing on new commercial businesses, because, when you're looking at government contracts, those can be few far in between. You can get a significant amount of influx at one point in time. So they want to try to move towards more commercial. It does sound like they are doubling down on that and talking about how their platform is going to be geared towards other market segments that maybe they're just kind of getting into at this point in time and really honing in on the commercial customer. There's a lot of activities as well when you're looking at the option market. The $30 calls were being targeted, but there was a fair amount of $25 calls being sold as well. So we might have that initial pop, but let's see how this thing marinates, to say the least. But once again, I'm kind of looking at their guidance compared to what we are seeing from Reuters or LSEG now. But compared to what you're seeing from those estimates, it looks like they actually did miss on the guides for Q2 moving forward, as well as fiscal year.
Right. Back in 2023, the commercial revenue was 45% of overall revenue, and then the rest was government. But I will say, going back to Kevin's point about the U.S. commercial revenue, so that grew 40% year over year and 14% quarter over quarter to $150 million. The customer count there grew 69% year over year and 19% quarter over quarter. So I think that's important, because I think the big question is, can the AI momentum really sustain Palantir's growth? I saw Dan Ives out with a note heading into this report saying that U.S. commercial strength momentum is going to be so key. He has an outperform rating and a $35 price target. The one thing with Palantir that's interesting, it was up 8% heading into this report, is that it's actually been trading above its median price target, which was $21.50. So I think that there would be questions, are there going to be some adjustments here based on these results, or has all of this been priced into Palantir shares? So I think that that's going to be a big question going forward, but that U.S. commercial revenue growth of 40% is pretty impressive. We'll have to see if it's enough to drive the stock higher. See a pop, but it looks like it's heading lower based on this chart.
Yeah, fading. And I think maybe KG's point about the next quarter guidance, the one kind of flaw here might be in there. I also do see differing reports, actually, as Bloomberg has it at their fiscal year outlook to upwards of 2.69, but Benzinga says 2.67 on the low end. Look, I don't think that would be cause for big volatility. I think the next quarter is kind of clearly missed by about 5 million or so. But look, they're talking AI. They've got 21% growth. I realize the stock has done well, Kevin, but, there's a lot of companies that are talking AI, and they're, still in this. Think about all the chip makers that basically told us, yeah, we're in AI, and you're going to see it in 2 quarters. Palantir, it's here. They already did 20% growth on the trailing. A lot of hardware companies actually didn't even do that. And then they're lifting their guidance from what they had said earlier. So, what else do we want?
Yeah, I think it's just onboarding customers. And I don't think this is a bad report, so I don't want that to be kind of the narrative there. I think it's just the fact that they are growing, but I think the street's expectations, once again, got a little bit ahead of itself when you're looking at the estimates. But they are doing the right things, and they are really focusing on trying to bring those commercial clients back onto the platform. And as you kind of talked about, a lot of other governments are also looking at Palantir as well. Now, there are certain restrictions, like in Germany right now, where they're kind of not trying to do business with Palantir, but it does appear that that might actually change. And if that is the case, and that's going to be an immediate tailwind for Palantir as well. Their model, just real quick, their model is also very phenomenal too. They have like these boot camps. So instead of like trying to go to each company individually, they basically invite all of these companies to a boot camp, and then they have representatives there that literally model out exactly what those companies need at that point of contact, but they centralize the sales. So that's also a very unique sales structure that no one else is really doing right now. And that's where they're seeing a lot of these benefits. And they're able to scale their expenses by doing so as well. So I know that's probably a little bit more than just an earnings conversation, but it is a unique sales tactic that has been proven to be very effective for them. And I would not be surprised if you see other companies like a Salesforce really take up that type of strategy moving forward, because they have been able to onboard fairly quickly, well, in batches, if you will, for those commercial clients.